It's
What's up,
from
folks?
the oh shit.
We're live. We'll talk about it. Let's talk
We're
about it
all
after
live.
the
We're gonna
intro.
talk about it after the intro. What's up, folks? Nick Battle, aka Nino's Corner, man. Look, we are here with the SEC Connect. We got myself, we got Jay from Unfair Sports, Chris with a K from the Hornstein Podcast, and my brother Ty from Around the Table Sports. And as Ty was just talking about, we're talking about the SEC and this 8 versus 9 game conference schedule. Ty, go ahead, man.
Yeah, so the 9 game is like you were asking what you said something like Nick Saban doesn't want it anymore, and so he's been a constant proponent of the 9 game, and he actually wants to go full SEC. That's even something he said the other day. Whenever the meeting was, he was saying that he wants a full SEC. The thing he was saying is they already have Auburn, they have Tennessee, and if we're doing it based on rivalries, I guess in the historical sense, Mississippi State is the rival on that side, a greater rivalry than is LSU. And the whole point of the 3 game was rivals. Now, personally, I'd rather have LSU.
Yeah.
Just being me.
Yeah.
But that was the whole argument here. And it was that, like, if we're doing this for rivalries, you do the Mississippi State. But at the end of the day, he's been a proponent of the 9 game, and I certainly don't think that that's going to falter. If I'm not mistaken, there were 2 teams that voted not in favor of it, and one of them was voted anonymously. So we
Right.
don't know one of the teams, and it's not Alabama because they were accounted for.
Yeah,
so
they were
it's not
accounted for.
just Saban. It's
Gotcha.
just another one of these situations where Saban says something and everybody acts like he's the only one.
I mean,
It's ever-
he's
I mean,
technically the
is
leader of the group
No
of
doubt.
all the old people there. So it's right. I get it. And you're right. He has been an advocate for it. And I always find it funny, though, his thought on the rivalry of wanting to go more historic than kind of recent, in which, honestly, the only reason why the LSU rivalry exists is because he used to coach there. That's really it. And it's more so because people in Louisiana actually like him, like a lot.
They love him.
Like,
My
they
grandmother
love him to
loved
death.
Saban. I mean,
They
she
love him to
loved
death.
him.
Even at Alabama, they still love him to death. They would take him back in open arms and a heartbeat. But outside of that, they love him. So yeah, he's right on that part. They're not really a rivalry. It's only existent because he won a title at LSU. So
Yeah.
It's
now,
weird, but yeah.
that being said, as an Alabama fan, as far as like recency, I don't think there's any question that if we're saying like, modifying our view of rival so that it's not historic, LSU is a greater rival to Alabama
Yeah.
right now than is Mississippi State. So I would love to
Exactly.
get, but I do understand, even though personally I like the current one with its Auburn, Tennessee, LSU, I do understand because he has been consistent in saying, hey, if we do the 3 permanent, let's do the 3 rivals so that way we maintain these historic rivalries while we do the switching, because that's been his main calling card, is getting these historic rivalries.
But is Mississippi State really it? I don't know. I don't even think people
Historically
make
speaking, it
these
is, but I
big
agree with you.
rivalry.
It's
Yeah.
like,
I would have thought it would have been more Ole Miss, but I kind of get. I guess I get the Mississippi State and it starts to
Yeah.
feel closer.
don't get
So I
me wrong,
guess-
Nino. I agree with you. I agree 100% with what you're saying. I'm just playing the other side,
Yeah.
kind of give it. but
I just never knew
agree.
Mississippi State was a rival of.
Honestly, most
Alabama.
people didn't. It's one of those, right, where it's a
Yeah.
rivalry and tradition alone. It hasn't been, and that's why I don't I'm not moved by Mississippi State. I'm moved by LSU. I like that game.
Exactly.
I want to keep that one personally.
Exactly. LSU, Ole Miss would be a good one for them.
I'd be
Definitely
fine with
Auburn, of
Miss.
course. I would love to see a Tennessee versus Alabama across the board every year.
Well, that's the thing, because
Yeah.
the other thing he was saying is like the 3 they're getting is LSU, Tennessee, Auburn. That's going to be
Ooh.
Alabama's constant 3. And the other thing he was saying is like you have the historic, you could have the 3 historic rivalries of
Yeah.
Mississippi State. But once again, this gets us back into your point. Like it's only a rival in the historic
in the
sense.
in the historic sense, and not in the everybody thinks it is sense. Right?
LSU's better content, right? And
It's
I want the
much
best
better.
content.
Yeah.
I like LSU.
Much better. Yeah, Chris, what's going on, man? We haven't seen you in about 2-3 weeks. You good?
Yeah, it took a little high.
He's dying.
I was, my lungs are crazy. Been smoking a Texas pack, but Anyways, like I was saying, though, I wanna
was
kind
good.
of stay on topic, but also take a little bit of a detour. I have a quote
That was
here,
good. That was
okay,
good.
from a head ball coach. I'm a history teacher by trade, and every time I come to one of these meetings, I'm blown away that the 13 colonies actually formed a union, but we can't agree on an 8 or 9 game schedule.
Exactly.
Eli
That was such a
Drinkwitz,
good
coach
quote.
for head ball coach for Missouri Tigers. Okay,
That was a good quote.
real quick, I just want to say Ethan Hanna, shout out to Ethan Hanna on Instagram. He said, and I'm actually blown away. He still has a job after 3 seasons below 500, but that's for another day. What I do want to say here is that I think it's really interesting that we're talking about all these rivalries and everything dating back to when OU and Texas broke the freaking internet for like a day and a half whenever they announced they were going to the SEC. We're talking about the bubble. We're talking about basically bracketing, maybe divisions now. I don't know. Like it's still kind of baffles me that we can't get this right, and we're still talking about a lot of this stuff. Not taking away anything that from what Nick Saban's saying or whatnot. A lot of stuff has merit. Some of it kind of sounds like, okay, well, what are you really getting at? But we need to be able to kind of have an idea of what's going to happen. And I don't think you need to wait until next summer to kind of unveil some magical plan for when OU and Texas come to the SEC. I think you need to kind of jump ahead of that so people kind of have an expectation. Will they do that? I don't know. You know the media and the narrative that they drive, but I'm just telling you now. I feel like it's just interesting that we're still talking about all of this,
Yeah, 8 versus
knowing
9 game.
what's eventually happening and what was inevitable from the get go.
Exactly. Exactly. Look, folks, we got a jam-packed show for you today. We're going to talk schedules. Just like the last time we talked, we had a good time. I think we talked for almost 2 hours about schedules. Ty had to get off,
did.
and me and Jay went off like another hour talking about schedules, man. But today we're going to do South Carolina, Kentucky, and Florida. And I think we're going to start with South Carolina today. Over under for them is 6.5 wins, which I think is very low. It's just my opinion, but we'll just step through that. I will put money that they're going to get above that. But let me share the screen here, folks, and let's get to the actual schedule here.
6.5.
6.5. Let me blow that
Ooh,
schedule
man.
up right quick. 6.5, man.
That's 2022.
It sure is. You're right, Ty.
Do you mind if I have 1 minute? Because Nick asked, "What's the opinion of Saban calling out A&M, Texas, and USC?" I can answer this in like less than 45 seconds.
Yeah,
Go.
yeah, go ahead.
So, Nick, honestly, I've seen a lot of people framing it that way, and I think that the people framing it as Nick Saban is taking a shot at those places aren't seeing the forest from the trees. His complaint has been consistent. It's the same complaint Billy Napier just had. It's the same complaint Coach Prime just had. It's that all of this talk about parity in college football, he's not mad at Texas A&M or USC. He's speaking to the NCAA, and he's speaking to the boosters of Alabama,
Yeah.
trying to be like, hey,
Yeah.
this is who's coming. They're spending money we need to spend. And he's also talking to the NCAA. You want parity in college football. You've just created the wild, wild west with no limits. So, yeah, I think it's a larger picture type thing. I wish he would have packaged it as a larger picture type thing, but I don't think it was a shot at any of those places. He has a lot of respect for Sark. I know they're very close.
Yep. All right, folks. How's that look, folks? Looking good?
There we go.
All right. 2023 schedule for the University of South Carolina.
Let me, if I may, Nick, I'll go ahead.
Go ahead,
and
man. Go
start
ahead.
this if I can.
You go ahead.
I think the North Carolina game really tells us what kind of tone this team is trying to set. Regardless of what happens against Georgia, that doesn't end their season. Let's just be honest with you. But that's a statement win to a lot of people, because a lot of people think that Drake May is arguably one of the top 5 quarterbacks in next year's class, rightfully so, after the last season that he had. And so people are going to be really high on them. I'm not going to sit here and say that these are two teams that are going to be in a championship conversation, but I do think that North Carolina has a chance to possibly be ranked, and if not, they're going to be right there on the verge of being ranked.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they'll be ranked.
But yeah, I definitely think that this is a game that for North Carolina, I mean for South Carolina, for me at least, I think this kind of sets the tone and sends a message to everybody else that hey, we're here and we have something to prove this year. Like I said, I think their tight end room was hurt, losing the offensive coordinator,
Yeah.
and obviously I think running back, Marshawn Lloyd. I mean, I know the injuries and stuff like that, but I think he was a big. When he was out there, he was really good. So I'm really interested to see that offense. Like, is there a shift as far as the philosophy, as far as what they're trying to do, or does it all remain the same? Defensively, I mean, I think they're going to be stout, but are they going to be good enough to keep you in games or whatnot as far as allowing Rattler to have time to kind of develop as the game goes on? Because let's just be honest, Spencer Rattler, don't get me wrong, there's games where he comes out there and I mean he'll rip you to shreds first few quarters, but then there's the other half of the season where he's kind of, in my opinion, he's like a rhythm thrower. He has to get a good rhythm to really, stay in the game, stay active, stay on par or whatnot. But, I'll pass the mic, but I'll just say that North Carolina game to me is the tone setter for the season. That will kind of tell me, is this the team that I need to look out that I need to be on the watch for, and maybe on an upset alert against, who will put a bunch of teams on an upset alert in the SEC.
So, Chris, tell me this: who wins, North Carolina or South Carolina?
Man, as it stands today, I'm probably going to go with North Carolina. I think it'll be a close game, though. I think they win by possibly a touchdown and a field goal, and I'll put it like that.
Okay, Ty, how about you, man?
So this is the thing with North Carolina. They're missing a big piece of that offense that they had last year in Downs. And
Yes.
yeah, he was a beast, man. And so here's the thing, man. South Carolina had a really good recruiting class, and they recruited a lot to need. Desmond Umazulu was a huge get, top 200 prospect in the nation at edge. That's a big one, but we all know the big get they had, right? Nicholas Harbor. 6'5", 225 pounds with legitimate Olympic speed. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be a catalyst that propels them to an undefeated season. Certainly not. He's got a lot of growing to do, but it was a great addition. This North Carolina game is so interesting to me because, Chris, I love how you frame this. There's no better way to set the tone. It's almost a quasi-rivalry game right off the rip,
Yep.
and it's huge for both programs. This game to me is really a toss-up because you're right. South Carolina lost some big pieces, the running back and the tight end. But if they put Nicholas Harbor at tight end, if he can pick up the blocking, you can try and mitigate that loss. But no doubt about it, that's not what you want. I would really like to see South Carolina pull this out. Rattler ended the year playing very well.
Yeah.
But man, Drake May, this is tough for me. I don't know that I find this one as cut and dry as you do, Chris. Though I don't disagree with anything you said. Oh man, I don't know how. I would be interested in seeing how South Carolina finished up the year defensively, like specifically speaking. But I do agree. I think North Carolina probably takes this by about a field goal. But I do think this is going to be a great game.
I think you and Jay, before you go, I would just say you got to push him out of the pocket. You got to get him to do some things that he doesn't necessarily want to do. And I'm talking about Drake May. I think Drake May is a guy who, Ty, I say it all the time, willing runners. Not a guy that I'm sitting out here saying that's Lamar Jackson by any means, but he could be a willing runner at times when he needs to. And I'm not going to say even if you push him out of the pocket, he can't hit a guy on the run. But at the same time, I feel like you gotta put him in positions that make him uncomfortable. You can't come out there trying to run a zone against Drake May. In my opinion, I think he'll eat you alive. So it's gonna be interesting to see what game plan they have, and that being being the ABC, the primetime game, that should be a really really interesting atmosphere and game.
Jay, how about you?
Yeah, I love the first game being a neutral site game for them, being there in Charlotte, playing there at the Panthers Stadium, and so it's gonna be like Ty said, a quasi rivalry game, and so it's gonna be a fun one. I think that South Carolina looking at the over under set at 6.5. I calculate all of this, man, and I'm seeing at least 8 wins that they could truly pull off this year. The good thing for them is that they have Spencer Rattler. They actually have established quarterback play, has experience at the collegiate level. Now, the North Carolina game is going to be a tough one because I'm very high on Drake May.
I am too.
Think the dude's exceptional, and Mac Brown has a tendency of showing up and showing out at moments. Nick, you know this. He's actually recruiting right now. Now,
I wish
we'll
he
see how
did.
long it
Never mind.
lasts.
Never mind.
We'll see how long that lasts. But my point here is that he's still building something special there at North Carolina, and because he's still interested in it, I do believe that they're going to be a challenge for them. So moving along into the schedule overall, man, this is definitely 6.5 is way too low for South Carolina. They have an opportunity here. I can see about 8 wins. Now, can they go for 10 wins? I don't know, but I can see 8.
All right. So, look, I'll finish up with this game right here. You know, with North Carolina, Texas fans are going to hate me by saying this, but I think we all know that, you know, Spencer Rattler has first-round talent. His arm talent is first-round arm talent. I think we all understand that. Drake May is probably going to be a first-round draft pick as well. Mm-hmm. This is going to be one of those games that at the end of the season, if these teams ball out, this could have been the floor for both of these quarterbacks to kind of showcase their skills on week 1 to see who might be one of the first quarterbacks picked in the draft if Spencer balls out like he's supposed to this year. A lot of people kind of want to write off Spencer because he didn't have the best season the previous year prior to going to South Carolina because he was the Heisman hopeful, the Heisman favorite, didn't get it done, got the job taken away from one of the most transcendent quarterbacks we've seen probably in the last 25 years, you know, and that's nothing to sneeze at. He just got outplayed by a better player. But Spencer, I think, is going to have a hell of a season this year. I do think they lost a little too much. I think North Carolina edges them out. But I think this is going to be a knockdown, drag-down fight between these two quarterbacks. I got North Carolina I'm with you, Chris, I think by probably a field goal. But it can easily go either way. Since it is a neutral game, it can easily go either way. It's not going to be a real sway from the crowd. And if Spencer starts off the season this year like he finished last year, South Carolina can do some great things this year. They might upset some people this year.
Let me say this before it's even said. Spencer Rattler, in my opinion, is a great low. I'm about to say great value. I'm not talking about Walmart. I'm talking about this. He's a value pick. I think that a team that gets him could hide him out possibly for a year or two and let him develop. I think he's a guy that you can afford to. You probably will see drop to like some later rounds or whatnot. But I think he's a guy that has all the potential in the world. I still will stand on this hill and die on this hill. I think he has the best arm in the nation. I think he has at least the most gifted arm in the nation. I know we got guys like Milton, guys like that who have bazookas or whatnot. But Jay, I see you shaking your head. I haven't seen enough game tape from him. The most I've seen from him is chunking balls on videos and doing backflips. So I'll say that right there. But just in my opinion, I still think he's the most talented passer in the nation. But I definitely don't see. I don't know. This is just a tough one to take. But I think that North Carolina pulls it out at the end.
Okay, so
You're still my boy, Jay.
All right, so we got 0-1 South Carolina. I guess that's the consensus right now after the first game.
Yeah, I'm making a little chart right now.
Yeah. Second game's against Furman. I think we all understand that. Furman's going to get blasted. Skip. All right, so 1-1. All right, third game is Georgia.
Skip.
Yeah, no, I'm like Jay. I'm good on it.
Why waste our time when we know
I don't
what
have
this
a thing to
discussion is
say.
going to be?
1-2. They're 1-2. All right. Fourth game's Mississippi State. This one's going to be very interesting.
This is good.
This is going to be a very interesting game. I want to start this one off, Ty. I got to start this one off.
No, please.
Man, I love the defense of their head coach, Arnott. I think he is outstanding on the defense side of the ball. We've been talking about this for a while for the offense side of the ball. How does that offense mesh up with that defense? Kevin Barbie is a hell of an offensive coordinator, coming from Appalachian State, also Central Michigan as well. Runs a very balanced air raid system, if that makes sense, folks. He runs the ball very well. I'm talking about 1,200 to 1,300 yard rushers, coupled with guys that are going to get 12 to 1,300 yards in actual receiving yards as well. Very balanced offense. I don't think Mississippi State has the horses right now. They don't have the horses right now, folks, to implement the offense that Barbie wants right now. I think that offense is probably 2 years away. So with saying all that, I think Mississippi State's defense is going to come to play outstandingly well. I don't think they have the players on the offense to run the offense that the OC wants. I think South Carolina edges this game out. I'm going to say 6 points.
Ooh. I'll take round two. I'll take the second spot this time around. I'll know more on Mississippi State after week 2 of this season. The only thing that concerns me is kind of the way everybody got their jobs, losing Pirate.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how that affects everyone and how they play, because they're going to honor them game 1, so it's going to be the emotional game, and they should be able to go out there and do something with that. But outside of that, I don't know what this team's going to look like next season. I don't. The last class wasn't all that great. So, and I think South Carolina did a really good job in the portal on top of getting Harbor, the 5-star number 19 player in the country. I think South Carolina wins this one. I think they win this one soundly at home. There's no excuse. They're at home.
Yeah. So here's how I look at it. I have a lot of questions about Mississippi State. Will Rogers is there. He has put up monstrous numbers, but what happens with the offense? Right? Like, it's the uncomfortable conversation nobody wants to have because of the passing of a legend in college football. What does that offense look like? Because Mike Leach was incredible on the offensive side of the ball. You knew any given Saturday he could have his offense absolutely unleash on you. And the incredible thing is you knew he wasn't going to run the ball, and he'd still pass it for 550 yards on you ad nauseum. And it was without that, and there's a total shift in identity. Mississippi State is undoubtedly one of the teams to watch this year, but I have this game for South Carolina. I do. And isn't this at home? Yeah, this is at home.
Yeah, it's at the home.
It's at home.
That's why I was sold on it too, was looking at it. It's a home game. There's no reason not to. And just like you mentioned, Ty, the only thing I could say with that is Appalachian State's Barbie, he beat up on, A&M. I mean, Texas A&M last season. So,
but it wasn't the offense that beat him up. I mean, that was a close game. That was a very close game.
It was all defense. Fair point.
That was a defensive juggernaut, right? So, yeah, his offense didn't tear up A&M, but A&M had one of the better defenses. I'll go ahead and say they had one of the better defensive lines in the country last year, and it all starts in the line, right? So, his offense didn't beat down the doors last year against A&M, but against like-minded competition, they did really well.
It's true.
Chris.
Look, I think Mississippi State, just piggybacking off of what Ty was saying, I think Mississippi State is going to have more of a controlled offense this year. I think they're going to be, and they're not going to be a tempo offense. They're not going to be kind of a spread, in my opinion. They may come out there and be a spread team, but I don't think you're going to see kind of the high pace, high volume of passing or whatever. I think that the defensive coordinator, obviously, he wants to, he's going to put his imprint on his team, and I think he's going to play defensive first. I still don't know exactly what they have. I mean, obviously, we know. The old head ball coach, exactly what he was coming out there. Mike Leach was going to always have guys that could go out there and run his offense, but I think it's shifting philosophy this year. So definitely would take South Carolina in that game. They should win that game, barring some type of, they come out there and they take them light and kind of go through the motions, at least the first half. If they let them stay in it, that second half, we'd be talking about a different thing.
That's true. All right, so we got 2-2. 2-2 for South Carolina right now. This next game, this is going to be the one, folks. South Carolina versus Tennessee rematch of I think one of the game of the year. That's last year. That was a hell of a game last year. Spencer had a coming out party that game. It's at Tennessee. Since it's at Tennessee, Jay, you are a Tennessee fan, man. So let me start off with you.
Before we begin this, just as a point of like, because I'm documenting all this, and from
Yeah.
here on out, I'm going to have it all on a spreadsheet. So after we get done, we can look back and like, so I just
That'd be
want to
fun.
have Jay for North Carolina. You had North Carolina beating South Carolina?
I got South Carolina winning that game.
You got South Carolina winning that game? Okay.
Ooh.
So all of us pick North Carolina except for Jay. And on MSU, we're all in agreement that South Carolina takes that one?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was okay, perfect.
Yep.
Sorry about that. Just
No problem.
wait.
All right, so Tennessee in Knoxville, Joe Milton should have his coming out party in this game. I think Tennessee wins this one. I just think that Tennessee having the fourth best recruiting class in the SEC this past class, you've got Joe and you've got Nico right there in the reins. I think Heupel is figuring things out well. I don't see South Carolina walking in there and winning there in Knoxville, especially the way that they thrashed Tennessee and took out Hendon Hooker, which eliminated his Heisman Trophy run. I think this is a revenge game that Tennessee will have circled on the billboard. I think they pull this one out. I think it's close, though. I think it's probably a touchdown game.
I'll go next. So yeah,
Go ahead.
this is a really fun one, man. And here's my question, Jay. I want to have a little bit of a back and forth right here because you know a bit more about Tennessee and their current capacities than I have. I'm a little bit all over the place right now. And
Fair?
so outside of you replace Hendon Hooker, you have a lot of faith in Milton. What does the offense look like? I know you still have Brew McCoy at wide receiver. You have to replace Hyatt.
And you got to
We
replace
got
the other wide
Squirrel,
receiver.
who got a lot of game last
Gotcha.
year at your
Gotcha.
Y.
And what about the defense? Because that was an area of major. What moves have happened there? Because that's the only area that really concerns me for Tennessee with a new quarterback that isn't as experienced as Hendon Hooker.
Well, see, that's the thing is that Milton has a lot of experience. He didn't have
Fair.
a lot of
That's
fine
fair.
tuning. He played a lot at Michigan. He did. He played like 2 seasons and he got a lot of game. The problem is that no one could hone in that arm. And then when he got to Tennessee, he won the quarterback battle with Hendon Hooker. Started the season off first couple of games with the job, but they stripped it from him because, again, he couldn't control that cannon. Brought Hooker in. He finished the season out. Tennessee went like 6-7, did okay. But then Hendon Hooker had his coming out party, him and Jalen Hyatt. And so I think with the work that they've put into Milton over these last 2 years, with Hendon Hooker as well, trying to help guide him and mentor him because they're pretty tight. I think this is the year where he tones down that arm and he's able to get better control and better throws. Plus, they've got some fast receivers. You know, with Squirrel, he played throughout the Orange Bowl and was kind of eating up Clemson's defense, and that was kind of a shocker to me. I'm sitting in the stands like, oh, this is what this is going to be, huh? And then Milton was out there dropping some dimes. So if anything that concerns me is the defense. I don't know what the defense is going to look like. Byron Young is gone. That to me is a big deal. They're losing a couple of defensive linemen to the portal. One went to Colorado, and a defensive tackle was just at Oklahoma visiting recently that had some solid
DeJoun
production.
Terry,
Yeah, DeJoun Terry. So I don't know what overall the defense looks like. I'm still digging into how this roster is going to be constructed, but I don't think that that's going to be their problem. I think in this game, I think overall it will be because that defense needs to tighten up if they're going to be able to succeed against Georgia's of the world and the rematch against Alabama and Tuscaloosa, which I will be at that game this year. It's in this game. I see Milton just out-dueling Spencer Rattler this time around, and Tennessee wins it because of that.
And this is my last question. Do you think Milton, because this is what all my questions have been leading up to, the one thing I haven't seen Milton be able to do, and that's not to say he can't do it, right? Because the same thing could be said for Hendon Hooker, and this is why I'm more interested in saying this is a debate point. But I haven't seen Milton be able to just go out there and win a shootout. Right. And that's where I have the level of concern because the arm talent is there. Like you said, the control over the throws has been all over the place. Accuracy has been a little bit all over the place. And reading a defense has been a little bit all over the place. And when I combine all of those with the defense being kind of all over the place as well, that's where my big question for Tennessee comes in, because I don't know that you have a guy that you hang your hat on that can go out there and score 55 points a game.
No, I agree. If it becomes a shootout, that's going to be a bigger problem for Tennessee than it will be South Carolina, because Spencer Rattler, to me, has a little bit more experience in that capacity and running offenses where you can go. But after watching Milton play against Clemson in the Orange Bowl, I've calmed down on my fears with him because he did a really good job eating up that Dabo Swinney team. He did. And that surprised me. Because when I watched that, when the game was going on, I was like, man, this is not going to be that. Because remember, Hyatt didn't play. Of course, Hendon Hooker was out. We had a few players that did not play in this game because of deciding to go to the draft and prepare for that instead. Joe Milton went out there, threw 250-something yards. Squirrel White had over 100 yards receiving and a touchdown on 9 catches. And so it was a balanced attack, and the defense actually showed out too. So Clemson ain't no slouch. So to me, being able to win the Orange Bowl with the 2 orange teams playing told me that he could actually tell colors throughout that game.
Fair.
Ty, hey, you remember 2014? What happened in 2014 in that bowl game?
Which bowl game?
Alabama versus Oklahoma.
I try not to remember.
It's not even on you. What happened in that game? Who was the quarterback for Oklahoma? What did he do?
He sling it all over Alabama, ran all over Alabama. I mean, whatever he wanted to do all in Alabama. It was tough to watch. And
in that very next season, what did he do? Absolutely nothing. That's the same thing that I see with Joe.
Oh, no.
I am so sorry.
No.
Jay, I can't do this.
You see the way he led up to that? You see the way he just dangled that carrot?
He hit 2 birds with one stone.
The level of disrespect.
And he attacked me.
I can't sit here and let you do that, Jay. I'm not. I'm not. Do I think that Tennessee will get the win? I'm leaning towards so. I think it'll be kind of a late game heroic by somebody. I think it's going to be more of a controlled game. I'm just not a big, I don't know. Something just rubs me the wrong way. You know, I talked to my uncle about this. My uncle said, hey, well, obviously Tennessee, they know something because they see them every day. So obviously he's got to be, something for them. Hey, man, I'm just going to be honest. I don't see it, man. I think we'll see Nico probably around sometime around.
Wow.
I just don't think that Milton's the guy, man.
Oh my God.
Mine sealed and delivered, man. I'll give this game to Tennessee simply because I think that they'll edge it out. And I don't think that South Carolina will have the luxury of playing at home. And then obviously, I don't know, Jay, you can confirm it or not if you can. But, obviously there was some locker room issues. No, I wouldn't say locker room issues, but there were some issues around that game, or at least some certain rumors that were floating around for the reason why they had such a piss poor effort defensively, at least in that game. So I don't see this happening, at a good old Rocky Top in Knoxville. But yeah, that's just my thought.
Ooh, y'all!
My God,
y'all a little feisty today. Well, look, I'm gonna shock y'all.
You see this violence? You see this violence I'm dealing with?
Look, I'm kind of on the same tip right now as Chris, man. I think South Carolina's going to pull this game off. And I say that because, look, Tennessee lost a lot. They lose 2 wide receivers. They lose their Heisman candidate quarterback. I'm with Ty on this too as well. How's their defense going to shape up? And, yeah, Milton did win the bowl game, but he beat out a true freshman in Clay Cubney. He should. I mean, he should. He's been in college for a while. He should outplay a true freshman, right? I just got a feeling Spencer Rattler is going to have a hell of a season this year. And he's going to win some games that he's not supposed to win. He's going to we saw last year how he kind of propelled his team to win some games late last year, and that was on his arm. I think he continues it this year. I really do. So I got them edging out Tennessee very slightly, but I think Spencer's going to play better than Milton at Rocky Top.
All right. You know, you spent 40 minutes on South Carolina, and we're gonna do this to me? Me?
Well,
All right, but the consensus is Tennessee is going to win this, right? So 2-3, right?
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right, 2-3. All right, off week the next week. Florida. Chris, how about you start this one?
Okay, so with Florida, this is the interesting part. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm going to say South Carolina. I think this is a South Carolina win by probably a field goal
Oh, more than
or
that.
simply a touchdown. Because I think like teams play like teams, right? And what I mean by that is the fact that this could be a game where Spencer Rattler struggles against that defense. I don't care who's the coach for Florida. I don't care how bad Florida is. They're going to have athletes, SEC athletes, and they're going to have Florida athletes who are some of the best recruits in the nation, obviously. So I know that defense is going to be stout. I still think that the old head ball Napier is going to be okay. My only problem with Florida is this right here, whether it's
Graham?
Graham Mertz or Jack. What's his name? Jack.
What's his name? I don't know, but they got Graham.
You know
slated
who
to
I'm
start,
talking. Yeah,
right?
Jack
Yeah.
Miller. Jack
Miller.
Miller.
Jack
Miller.
Miller. Yeah.
I was going to say
None
Milton Miller. Yeah.
excuse me. As the great Ty Hayes would say, neither one of those quarterbacks move the needle for me. Okay,
Not a bit.
I can't do it. I can't bring myself to really feel like Graham Mertz is going to go out there and really take over. So
I mean, y'all leave
I'm
Graham
giving that
Mertz
game-
alone.
I'm giving that game to South Carolina.
Ty, how about you, man?
Yeah, I got to go South Carolina. Look, here's the thing. I want Napier to do well. I think that goes without saying. Any of the people that come from the Saban tree, right? Like I just kind of root for them. And that being like Florida, I can feel for any team that was doing very well in very recent memory, and through the cycle of one or two coaches got to a point where you had Dan Mullen saying in front of the press, "I'll worry about recruiting when the season ends," and like you can't do that, right? So like that's a huge fall.
What was he smoking?
While Napier, I think, is going about this in a manner long term that's going to be good because I think he's seen enough good cultures. He was able to do good work at Louisiana. They're almost doing their rebuild in the reverse order, where he got there last year, played with what he had, and then coming into year two, you've seen an exodus into the transfer portal and some things shifting around. Because of that, I just think that this year is going to be real up and down for Florida, right? I think they're going to have games where they shock people, and it's going to be like, oh, where has this Florida been? Whether that's for drives, for quarters, or even for an entire game. But I also think against a team like South Carolina that has an established quarterback, that Shane Beamer is going into year three, that the offense did show some signs of life. I have South Carolina winning this game, and the cherry on top, it's at South Carolina.
Yep. Jay, how about you?
I'm gonna keep it simple, man. Florida's in shambles. South Carolina's got more stability right now. Shane Beamer's doing what he's supposed to do. I'm gonna go with South Carolina. I think South Carolina blows them out. I think this is like a 3-touchdown game.
I do too. I think they kill Florida. Florida is they don't know who their quarterback is. Look, they had the fourth pick of the draft this year, and they only won 6 games this year. That ought to tell you something. They had one of the most athletic freaks in the country. No, not one of. They had the most athletic freak in the country, and they still only won 6 games this year. I mean, that's a video game guy that they had playing at quarterback, and they couldn't
Didn't take advantage of it.
anything out of him. And now you're telling me that Graham Mertz, whatever his name, he's going to be the guy that's going to come in here and do great things. I think last week we said that Florida wins 4 games, maybe 5 this year. I'm sticking with that. I think South Carolina blows them out of the water. I think it's at least 17 points. At least 17 points.
I like Florida's running backs, but like you said, Nino, I just don't know what they have at quarterback. The offensive line is a big question. They've got Micah Mazuka from Baylor.
Yeah, they
really
did
like
get
that
him.
addition.
Yeah, they got a bunch of good guards, but
yes.
who's going to pay the tackle for them this year? That's the
Keontae
question.
Goodwin has the upside, but
Yeah.
actually, it's interesting. One of the guys that's on the stream, he's always in the comments. RJ, Jay, you know RJ.
Yep.
He trains with Keontae Goodwin. He said that was the first guy like I started working with in high school. He was a 5-star coming out of high school. And he was even saying the other day when we had Cody from F is for Fanatics, great Florida content creator, does a lot of work with High Top Sports. He was saying how, the one complaint, and even RJ said it, the one question with Keontae Goodwin is he going to be in good enough shape? He's a real big kid, and if he loses a bit of weight, gets in a little bit, he's going to be good, but that's a question right now.
Yeah.
And while that might seem small, when you don't know what the rest of your line looks like, those small questions start adding up quickly.
Yep, I'm with you. So I think we got this. This is a consensus. South Carolina beats Florida. Next game in the schedule. Hold on. So what is it? 3-3 tie?
So right now we have, actually, it depends who you ask. Let me go back to this. We have.
This is crazy.
Yeah, we have. Actually, it's 3-3 all the way across.
All right, so 3-3 all the way across.
Well, no,
All right.
you have it. You have 4 wins for South Carolina, 2 losses.
Yeah. Okay.
The rest of
we'll
us
just go
have
with the
3-3.
consensus. We'll just go with the consensus here. So, consensus 3-3, right?
I'm sorry, I'm all over. It's split 3-3 for 2 of us and 4-2 for the other 2.
That's right, because Jay picked South Carolina over North Carolina, right?
Yes. Jay picked North Carolina to beat South Carolina, and then you picked Tennessee to
To lose, yeah.
Yep, gotcha. All right, next one, folks. Missouri Tigers. I think South Carolina takes this one.
Nick, go ahead. I was going to say, you might as well couple these next 2 games. They got to drop one of these games, and I think that they drop at Missouri but win at Texas A&M. I think that
Really?
it's two away games, both on the road. I think they take one of those, but I don't think it's at Missouri. I think it's at Kyle Field.
Ooh, I think they beat Missouri, and I think Kyle Field is the flip. Now, it's a toss-up. I
think
don't know.
Missouri returns a lot of talent.
They do. Maybe I'm just really high on Spencer this year. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
I think he does have the best arm in the SEC this year. I won't know about I won't say about the country. I know Chris says the country, but I think in the SEC, I can't name a quarterback with better arm talent in the SEC. And I think at the end of those games, your quarterback's gonna have to make a play. And I think he's one of the only guys in that conference that I know for a fact is going to be able to make a play when it counts if his mental is right. If he has it between the ears right. I think it clicked last year. Those last 6 games, those last 4 games, I think it clicked. And I think that's, some of the best ball that we've seen him play, at a harder conference too as well. So I'm going to go South Carolina for Missouri. The A&M game is going to be a toss-up for me, but Ty, go ahead with you, man.
So you gave the W to South Carolina against Missouri.
Yeah.
Chris, did you say you're giving the W to Missouri?
Yes.
I agree.
Ooh.
I just think this could be a little bit of a trap game for South Carolina.
The Missouri one?
Yep, coming off of Florida, you have Missouri before Texas A&M at Kyle Field.
Yeah.
Right?
Back rotors.
Yeah, back-to-back rotors, and I think it's easier to look at Texas A&M and say like, "Oh, I'm looking ahead to them." Granted, I think this would be a very close one, but I'm very much a toss-up here. But for the time being, I'm gonna side with Chris. I'm going to give Missouri the win here.
Jay, how about you?
Oh man, I guess I need to be the moment of truth here, huh? This is a trap game. I think Missouri wins this one.
Ooh, I'm the only one
At
that thinks they
home.
win it.
I think it's a trap. I think it's a trap too. I agree. You're traveling to Texas A&M right afterwards, and of course Missouri's probably not gonna be that good this year, even though they actually have the same 6.5 win total that Vegas believes they're gonna be good. So Vegas may be trying to trap everybody to take that under on Missouri, and Missouri may actually have a winning record, a really good record. and compete this year. So that being the case, I'm thinking Missouri pulls out the upset on this one.
Ooh, okay. All right. So with the consensus, we got 3-4. All right. That's consensus right now. 3-4. They lose to Missouri. All right. All right. Next game's Texas A&M. And I think I'll start this one off. This game is going to all depend on, and I think we said this numerous times, how is Bobby Petrino and Jimbo Fisher going to mesh together? How's that offense going to mesh, right? I think Josh Pate said it best, right? What he's talking about, the milk that's expired, right? And the milk's been, that's the offense, right? Does Jimbo...
The milk's gone bad.
Exactly. Does he let off the reins and officially hand everything over to Bobby Petrino? If that happens, A&M has a shot to do some good things this year. But then, I was thinking about this the other day when it comes to A&M and when it comes to Bobby Petrino. Is his offense stale now? Is it? We haven't seen him coach at a really, really high level in how long, guys?
It's been a bit.
Well, and also RJ wasn't the biggest fan.
Yeah, so let's be honest. When's the last time we seen him coach at a high level? Is his approach to the college game this time around at A&M, is it going to be very successful? I'm not sure it will be, but I think A&M's defense is just, their defensive line is sick, man. Adding Hicks to that line as well. Yeah. It was sick last year.
And they got Bryce Anderson in the back of that secondary. He's a beast.
And does Weigman provide better quarterback play than what they had last year?
Couldn't be worse.
Yeah, and so you got Weigman, you got Evan Stewart, who I think's just an amazing player.
You say it can't be worse.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're no doubt.
You got.
We're talking about A&M.
You would hope.
You would hope not, but I think that they are returning some really good wide receivers. Adding Owens in the backfield too, 5-star running back in the backfield, Weigman there as well. Their offensive line is one thing that you got to kind of look at. Is that going to be enough in the conference? They didn't play too bad last year. They didn't play too well either last year. Mm-hmm. They're kind of an average line, but I like their skill position, pieces. I like their 5-star running back. I like Weigman, and I like their defense, man. And it's at A&M. That's going to be a tough win. I think I'm going to kind of give A&M the edge on this one.
Here's my problem with Texas A&M, okay? It's not necessarily the headlines that are making the rounds right now. I think that Petrino was brought in there for a reason, and he's a good offensive coach. I think he's a really good offensive coach. My only problem is his Weigman and a really athletic quarterback that can move, that can run. Because I've only seen Petrino's offenses ever be successful with athletic guys playing quarterback. And even going back to Arkansas, I know that people will say, "Oh, well, Arkansas, he won a bunch of games without an athletic quarterback." Yeah, but you had McFadden, and then you had Jones back there. You won a Wildcat. I think I watched them run Wildcat for most, if not all, the game against LSU or somebody. One of those games that year. So
they seemed like they were the majority Wildcat that whole season.
Entire
season. So I mean, that's kind of my spin on it. And that's what kind of gives me fear, is that I don't necessarily doubt the talent there, Evan Stewart and some of the other wide receivers that they have. But and Weigman, I think that he's a good quarterback. I really do. I think last year he showed flashes. I just don't know with Petrino's offense if he can win with a guy who's honestly a pocket quarterback. I guess that's kind of the verdict that I have. There needs to be some type of resolution to that, because I just don't see it. And plus, I think that Texas A&M is due for a letdown at some point this year, and I think it will definitely be against a team like that, which would be South Carolina. I think that they could they could come there pretty much. I think that would be kind of like a 6 p.m. game. I don't think that'd be an 11 a.m. game, and I don't think that'd be a 2:30 game. I think that'd be like a 6 p.m. kickoff, and I think that you would see possibly that game kind of, they go round for round, quarter for quarter, who's going to come out on top, and I think eventually you would see South Carolina win that one.
Well,
Ryan Mallett.
yeah, here's the issue, because my gut, for whatever reason, wants to say South Carolina, and I think you hit the nail on the head, Chris. We've seen peak silliness out of Texas A&M for multiple seasons now, and I'm one of those people where if you show me peak silliness multiple times, I'm going to believe that the next year you're going to show me peak silliness. And I think it's completely logical to say, like, hey, they're going to get caught one time. When will it be? The only reason why I have it hard saying that it's going to be against South Carolina, one, it's at home, and two, it's coming off of a bye for Texas A&M.
Exactly. They're going to be up for this game.
Yeah, they're coming off of a bye. They're very talented. I think your point about Petrino and typically having a mobile quarterback is well received. I don't disagree with that at all. I think that's actually a very interesting point, something I'm actually probably going to look into a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't think about that either. That's a good one.
I didn't think about that at all. Very actually interested in diving into that. But, Nino, there's something you said, and it's so true, man. It is so true. The A&M offensive line is all over the place in terms of their consistency. One game you'll watch them, and you're like, these guys are world beaters. I mean, these guys are phenomenal. And the next game, it's like, oh, my goodness.
What happened here?
There's no way. I don't know where my voice is going. But the next game, you're looking at them saying, there's no way this is the same starting five. Like, this has got to be a totally different crew. I'm picking A&M to win this game because they're coming off of a bye. And because when I look at the A&M defense, I think it's going to be very good up front. I don't think there's any question there. And offensively, if Weigman gets it together, you have Evan Stewart, who I think is going to be sensational. You have Moose Muhammad, who was amazing last year, and they're just going to keep growing together. I'm going to give this one to Texas A&M, but I will say, guys, I think midway through the summer, this is going to be two conversations we have to revisit, is the Missouri game and the Texas A&M game for South Carolina, because of the games we've talked about, those are the two that are really standing out to me right now as question marks. And I know from the outside looking in that might seem weird, but I don't know. It's just something about those two games that really stand out to me.
Exactly. Jay?
We don't have to worry about December 2nd.
I just caught on that. Jay, what about you, man?
Sorry. Well played, sir. Well played. Man, all y'all made great points. I think the only thing for me in this game is how bad does Jimbo Fisher want to get fired so he doesn't have to work while getting paid? And it kind of feels like this is one of those games where he's going to try to blame somebody else for them losing because they shouldn't lose. I think South Carolina pulls this one out. And it's probably more of a biased thing, is just me just hating A&M. I don't know. But I kind of think South Carolina goes down there and puts a whooping on them, especially after they get upset by Missouri.
Okay. All right, so you got them winning. Chris, you had who winning?
I got South Carolina, baby. South Carolina.
And then me and Ty got A&M winning that one. All right. So let's see what the record was at first.
So, interesting. We have, for Chris, he has South Carolina with 4 losses, 4 wins. So he has them 4-4.
Okay.
You have them 3 losses,
So
5
5-3.
wins.
All right.
Jay, same, 3 losses, 5 wins. And then I think I'm the harshest. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 losses, 3 wins thus far.
All right, let's look at the next two. These are 2 wins, I think. Jacksonville State and Vanderbilt. All right.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so I think those are 2 wins. All right. Anybody have any objections to the Vanderbilt game?
No.
All right, we're good.
Are
These
they-
last two,
Yeah.
These
We're
last
gonna
two.
keep going through that.
huh?
I was wondering we're gonna actually talk about that Vanderbilt game. Yeah, no, we should skip those two.
Yeah, look, we're gonna skip that one. But these last two are gonna be some no kidding. This is gonna tell you, like Chris said, the top of the year against North Carolina it should set the tone. The back end of the year against Kentucky and as well as against Clemson is going to show us how much this team has grown, or if this team was fool's gold. Okay.
Yeah,
I think the Kentucky game is going to be one hell of a game, a very interesting game. Kentucky is bringing in Devin Leary as their transfer quarterback from from North Carolina State. This kid balled out at State 2 years ago. The team went 9-3 with him as a starting quarterback in 2021. In 22 last year, he tore his pec, so he missed most of the season last year. Tore his pec on his right side, so that's something that I think we're going to have to look at here. But that honestly should be healed up by this time next year. But Devin Leary is a beast. So that Kentucky game is going to be. Let me see where it's at. Is it at Kentucky? No. So it's at South Carolina.
no, South Carolina's got 3 straight home games.
Oh, so that changes my thoughts now. I think South Carolina.
I'm sorry, 4 straight home
Yep.
games.
4 straight home games. I like Devin Leary. I think he's going to do great things at Kentucky this year. A lot like they did with Levis this year. Since it's at South Carolina, I think South Carolina edges this out. I'm gonna say another field goal game. It's going to be a close game. I think Kentucky's going to play very well this year, but I think South Carolina's going to get him in this game.
Jay, Nick, come on, man.
What's that?
Come on. Devin Leary, Ty, I'm sorry that I had to keep using this, but you know what we talked about for promo, okay? Move the needle. He does not move the needle for me at Kentucky. And I'm going to tell you why, okay? Because essentially what he's doing is just trading jerseys. He's just switching jerseys. It's practically the same team, same scenario as last year. They're a team that almost could, but just couldn't get it done. I just don't see them going out there and being this magical team. I thought there were much better positions for him. Well, I thought there were much better schools that he could have went to. Honestly, I thought that Leary wasn't Jay. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't there talk between him and about him in Oklahoma State?
I think at one point there was, yes.
Yeah, at one point there was. I thought that would have been a great place for him, being right there with Gundy. Knowing the type of coach that Gundy is. Look, I'm not an Oklahoma State fan, but I think we all would agree Gundy's a really good coach. How he goes about some things, we probably would say is questionable, but at the same time, he's a good coach. I thought there were much better places for him. I'm not mad because obviously he's with a Stoops brother, but at the same time, I think that he went from one scenario to the second scenario that is essentially the same as last time, and I don't see them being able to get this win. I think that South Carolina gets this win.
All right, we're in agreement. South Carolina wins. Ty, how about you?
South Carolina wins.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions for Kentucky. They lost some pieces along the offensive line. I know Keontae Goodwin, you don't lose a former 5-star feel good, and their offensive line coach left before the beginning of last season, is now the offensive line coach at Alabama. Big fan of his game, by the way. Really liked him at Kentucky. I just have South Carolina. I think South Carolina is going to finish decently strong. So I like them in this game.
Jay. We already got consensus. We got a consensus already.
I'm gonna be simple with it. I'm South Carolina as well, and I say that because they're playing 4 home games in a row in November. Like the football gods love them.
Yeah, you don't ask for much more.
There's no reason for them to lose any of these 4 games in November at all. They should win all 4 of them. I'm going South Carolina in this game.
All right, so we all got a consensus on that. Ty, so you're the harder, so only 4 wins for him now. You got him. No. You got him at 6 wins so far, right?
6 wins. Yeah, I have them at 6 wins.
Okay, and I think I got him with only 3 losses. So this is I got him at 9 I have him at 8-3 right now, right?
You have them at 8-3. Jay has them at 8-3, and Chris has
7-4.
Yep, 7-4.
And
All
where
right.
are we? We're past the that
We're past the- yeah,
we're
6
past
and a
over
half.
under, ain't we? We're
Yeah.
past 6.5.
All
Oh,
right.
baby.
Y'all are.
Yeah. That time.
I have a spoiler. We ain't gonna get there for me either. I'm gonna go ahead and spoil the party. We ain't getting there, boy.
All right.
Let me
Clemson.
let me go
Clemson.
ahead. Let me go ahead and start this by saying South Carolina gets the win, guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
South Carolina gets the win. I think South Carolina goes in there with sort of similar kind of pretty much the same game plan that they had last year. I think what you're doing is basically just controlling the narrative and doing what you need to do piece by piece. It's a piecemeal game. You're not gonna go out there and blow Clemson out. Clemson has a better caliber of athletes than you do, at least right now, in my opinion. But I think one thing that you can do is let's just be real. The T. Higgins and Justin Rosses and stuff like that aren't running out there anymore. And the thing about it is that we still have to kind of see how the season plays out for Caleb Klubnik. Do I think he's going to be electric? Hell yes, I do. But at the same time, I don't know if Clemson's good enough. I mean, I think Clemson's good enough to go in there and win the game. But I think at the end of the day, I think South Carolina, especially being a home game, and that's probably I don't know what time you guys think that game is going to be. Probably 11 o'clock or probably 2:30. But at the end of the day, I just think South Carolina prevails in that game. I think it just means more, and I think it would be. I just feel like they're gonna double up on that and go 2-0 for these past 2 years.
Well,
Jay, how about you, Jay?
same thing. They double up on this one. I like Klubnik. But I think South Carolina at this point hits their stride and goes to that 9th win. I'm going with them.
Ooh, Ty.
This is interesting, guys, because the one thing that's held Clemson back for the past few years is that offense. I mean, the offensive play calling has been abysmal, and they still
Atrocious.
have a high caliber defense, and now they have Garrett Riley.
Fair.
I think that they have such a good caliber of athlete. I think that they're going to be looking at the situation, realizing that they lost this game last year by 1 point. Bell was the leading rusher for South Carolina at 29. Guys, this is what worries me. Is this a recipe that can be repeated, where you have a running back run for less than 30 yards against Clemson and win the game? I don't know. The more I think about it, the more shaky I get on Missouri, right? The more I think I might overreact there. South Carolina might get that one. I don't see them beating Clemson twice in a row whenever they relied on 2 running backs so heavily last year, and Marshawn Lloyd is at USC now. He's not there anymore. I mean, that was a guy that if you look at the best performances through the year, Jaheim Bell never went over 100 yards. He never went over 100 yards. Marshawn Lloyd went 169, 110, 92, 80. Like, he was the dude there. He's not there anymore. I just don't know that trying to play Clemson with next to no consistent running game is a recipe for success.
Okay, so Ty, I'm glad you said that. I was waiting for you to bring that up. And also I'll let you speak. So I was quiet, so I'm gonna go ahead and correct you, okay? First off, this is a Lincoln Riley style offense, okay? We all know it doesn't take God's grace and mercy to even win that game. All you need is just somebody who's durable out there. You're not trying to go out there and rush for 100, 600, 200, 300 yards. That would be nice, but essentially all you're trying to do is just move the chains. You're trying to put them in really precarious situations and keep that offense off the field. That's all you're trying to do. Now, I know that defense is going to be stout, but I think with Spencer Rattler, especially being from that Lincoln Riley tree, obviously I think he's going to have a key understanding of what it takes to kind of really beat that. I'm not saying he's going to go out there and play defense, but what I'm saying is I think that they're going to be very controlled, and I think that they're going to be physical with that offense. I think that offense, that's where you exploit it. You're physical with them. You keep them off the field, and then when they are on the field, you're very, very, very physical with them. And they don't have the weapons this year, in my opinion, to run that offense. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Who do they
Outside of-
lose?
huh?
Who did they lose?
Outside of Will Shipley, what are we really talking about, Ty? I don't see any top-notch wide
You,
receivers.
you want to know the reason why I disagree with you?
Why you disagree?
They have the same receivers they had last year. DJ Uiagalelei threw for under 100 yards, and they lost the game by 1 point. To your point, this is a Lincoln Riley offense. What's the one truth we know about a Lincoln Riley offense? Hell, it's the reason you got on to me when I thought USC could get Utah. A disciplined defense that makes you read ends that. You're talking about Clemson. Once again, I think when we look at this, Spencer Rattler threw 2 interceptions in that game with a quarterback that couldn't move the ball on the other side of the football. If you give that Clemson offense any semblance of life, that's not a winning game for South Carolina.
Where's this game being played at this year?
South Carolina.
Exactly. And I think that's going to be. I think that's
I
definitely going to be
grant you that. I
different.
grant you
I
that.
think the crowd is going to be into the game. I think they're going to play a factor into
I
that
grant
game.
you that.
We're already one up, and I think that they're going to be loud. That's not going
grant
to be
you
a
that.
quiet stadium. I think that is going to definitely change some things. Now, I will go. I will give you that. Spencer Rattler threw picks last year. We've seen Spencer Rattler throw picks at home, on the road, neutral site. We've seen it all. Everybody on this panel has seen it. I just feel like if you're physical with that offense, and then
But can they be physical if they don't have a run game?
I
And their
get
tight end is gone.
no, I'm saying yeah,
Safety valve gone.
Clemson's defense is going to be
Both
different.
tight ends are gone.
Yeah, I know. Clemson's defense is different. Now, I mean, that's a different story. But I feel like if you're playing a controlled football game, because that's pretty much what they did this last year.
Well, no, they relied on
That's-
Spencer to win the game. They
Yeah.
couldn't move the ball to control the game.
Yeah.
And the other reason they were able to control the game, Chris, is because DJU couldn't stay on the field. He went 8 of 29 for 99 yards.
Factual. That's factual. That's factual. I can't argue with that. That's factual.
That dude with an 8 for 99 yards. Oh my
He had a
god.
QBR of 26.9.
But I'm still saying
Jeez.
the fact that they're playing at South Carolina changes the narrative for me.
I do
I
grant
got
you that.
Clemson. I mean, I got South Carolina. I don't think it's going to be big. I think it's going to be pretty much the exact same formula, exact same game as last year. And I think Spencer Rattler gets them over the hump.
We disagree, but we agree in the sense of I think it's a different result, but almost the exact same logic. Where I think it's close, but I think Clemson pulls it out.
Nick,
Yeah.
put that comment by James Thrice up there. That's hilarious.
I also rather throw a pick at Real Riders Airport. That's cold blooded. That's cold blooded, man. All right, it's my turn, right?
Oh man, hate.
That's cold-blooded.
Hate.
That's cold blooded. Hey, look, I'm with Ty on this one. I think Clemson. I think Clemson wins this game, 31-30 with DJU as quarterback. He didn't have. Look here, we could have got out there and played quarterback for Clemson last year and did just the same thing. You know, what was it 9 for 28, 9 for 29, Ty, something like that?
8 for 29, less than 100 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception.
Cade Klubnik, we saw what he did in that bowl game, going 20 for 24 with 280 yards or something like that, a couple touchdowns. He pretty much ate up North Carolina last year. Now, I know, North Carolina didn't have all their players playing last year in that bowl game, but to see a true freshman come in there and go 20 for 24 and have the game that he did shows promise, and it shows that Clemson has, I think, their next quarterback for the next couple years before he goes off into the draft. I think this is going to be a great coming out party for him this season. I think Cade does his thing. I think Clemson wins that game down in South Carolina.
I'm just going to add this in to piggyback off of what you said, Nick. If we look at the best passing performances last year for Clemson, the number 1 would be Uiagalelei against Wake Forest, where he went for 371 yards.
Yeah.
Number 2 would be Cade Klubnik against Tennessee, where he threw for 320 yards. And number 3 would be Cade Klubnik against North Carolina, where he threw for 279. He started 2 games.
Yeah.
And he had 2 of the 3 highest performing games for that offense.
And I remember watching Cade in high school, and that
Oh my
kid,
God. Lowest interception rate 24/7 Sports has ever charted.
That
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, he had the
Yeah.
lowest interception rate 24/7 Sports had ever charted for a quarterback rated 3-star or over.
Yeah, he's a monster,
Wow.
dude. Went to Austin Westlake. Hell of a quarterback, man. I remember seeing
What did he
him
throw
play.
like one interception his whole career?
It was something crazy, but they threw a lot, right? Like
Yeah.
they relied on
Yeah.
his arm, so it was
Yeah,
the
they
amount
threw
of
a lot.
attempts.
So it wasn't a BS. It wasn't a I threw it every
No.
once in a while. It was
No.
I'm
No,
throwing
this
it 400 times.
Yeah, he was a 5-star for a reason.
Nick, who else went to Austin Westlake?
As far as what?
I know what he's doing here.
Well, who else?
Here we go.
Somebody else went there, Nick. Come on.
Hey,
say
they
it.
produce QBs.
Bam
Yeah.
Bam Sam, okay.
Dude, Baker? I don't know.
Yeah, Baker, he didn't go to Austin. He went
He
to
wasn't
Lake
a
Travis.
South Lake quarterback.
He went to Lake Travis. Baker went to Lake Travis.
You know what South Lake quarterbacks do?
Yeah, they just beat OU 49-0. I'm just saying. But I think Clemson wins that game. I like Cade Klubnik. I think he's going to be a star. He's going to be a star. And I think they're going to ride high this year. ACC, like we always know, it's not the toughest conference. They should come in at probably 1 or 2 losses, maybe tops, and they're going to be playing for something. And I think Clemson wins that game. So what's the total, Ty?
Jay's still.
Oh, Jay. Oh, I forgot Jay. I thought you picked your. No. Jay already picked. He picked South Carolina.
Yeah.
Oh, you picked South
him.
Carolina?
I picked them to win 2 times. Hey man, I said they ain't losing at home these 4 game stretch.
My God, hold on now.
This is their 9th win. They're not winning. They're not losing.
Yeah, dear God. Okay, we have. Boys, I am not high on them. Like I said, I will easily eat crow on the Mizzou game because that's the one I'm the uneasiest on. And like Truth said, like Chris said, actually, like all of you said, Truth said it, Jay said it, Nick said it, Chris said it, where y'all said you think they split the Mizzou A&M. I think that's probably more likely. I'm going that they lose both. So here's the spread. Chris 8-4, Nick 8-4, Jay 9-3. I have them at 6-6.
Okay.
Which really, that's not a crazy spread.
Yeah, that's not too far off. That's not too far off at all. But I think 8-4 is very, very, very reasonable for them. I think that's something that can happen. Everything depends, I think, on that first game, on that North Carolina game. I got them losing that game, but if they win that game, they have an opportunity to have a slip up against a Missouri or slip up against A&M. Yeah, I think 8-4 is pretty reasonable for them. If Spencer comes out and plays like we know he can, and plays up to his talent and doesn't force things, is still a gunslinger without taking too many risks all the time, I think they can do great things this year.
Yeah, this is. I think that if you're asking me the 2 games I have them losing in, that I'd circle North Carolina, Mizzou. Because I think you put it perfectly. That first game, everybody said it. That's so important.
Yep, so important. Man, all right. So that was a good little spread. I like that one.
And you want to know what helps me? What makes me really believe South Carolina wins Clemson to end the season?
Why?
Clemson plays North Carolina the week before.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
That's going to be some work. They're going to have to work for that win. And they're at home, luckily, but they're going to have to work for that win. And that might be the game that determines who goes to the ACC championship game. So a lot of stuff's going to be riding on that game.
It is.
That to me is what, when I saw the schedule before, I was like, yep, that there's a game before South Carolina that Clemson's going to be focused on.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They may just
because it wouldn't matter if they lost at that point if they beat North Carolina for the ACC.
Right.
That's a really
This is a bragging rights
man.
game, and the question is do you care about their bragging rights more than you care about battle with North Carolina?
But it also depends on how Clemson is doing throughout the season.
Fair.
Clemson could literally run the table in the ACC this year minus North Carolina.
Oh, we got to go through the ACC's over-unders too then. We got to make that happen. That's going to be fun. There's a lot of great ones.
I mean, come on, North Carolina.
Go on my chin. Let's do it.
Hey,
Hey, I've got all of them. I've been looking at them. That's
Hey,
fun.
in the last few minutes of the show, let's talk a little couple of national topics, okay?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's
Let's
start
stay a
off.
little bit in the SEC, but let's kind of venture out just a little bit. So, first thing I wanted to get you guys' opinion on because it's been a minute since we talked. I think I saw a thing on I want to say 247 Sports or I'm forgetting which site I saw it on, but I saw the buyouts for coaches, and I thought it was really interesting when I'm looking at everybody. It's people that's at 16 mil, different things like that. I think you could play that out and possibly pay that out as well. But when you see Mel Tucker and Jimbo Fisher both at 86.5 million buyout, which is beyond me. Ty, I was on your show. I remember saying this, and I said it on my show the following week. You cannot give these coaches a 10-year deal. I
That's
just don't
crazy.
see how you could give I look, I get it. And if Venables goes out there and goes 10-2, goes 11-1, does this thing or whatever, I still don't see why you would give somebody a 10-year deal. I think you put them at most pretty much a 3 to 4 year
4.
contract,
Exactly.
yes, and
Make them
be
work
good
for
with
it.
Yeah,
Make them hungry.
because
Make them
I'm
keep
not
being hungry.
yeah, and I'm not saying that they don't deserve that. I mean, they're a high caliber of coach, or they wouldn't have got the jobs. But the fact of the matter is that you put yourself in such a box, and I feel like it's great that you're investing in a coach, but when you're locking yourself in for 10 years with somebody and then you have a buyout clause like that, you're hurting that team going forward for at least the next 3 or 4 years, because if it's the same each year, then they're going to be behind on the recruiting trail, and they're going to have to get somebody who's going to come in there and fix it and figure out what's going to happen. You get what I'm saying? Same thing with Arkansas. Arkansas was on the verge of doing something incredible with Petrino at first, and Petrino gets fired, and then boom, you have all the rest of the stuff. I mean, I know that's kind of a different extreme, but every team on here, Alabama included, Oklahoma included, Tennessee included for sure, Jay. Texas, I mean, that's another story. But a lot of times you're getting locked in with some of these coaches, especially we can look in the past and see you're getting locked in with these coaches, and hell, 3, 4, 5 years, and then we have Nick dropping videos talking about, hey, this is the first coach we've had in such a long time who's actually wanted to build inside out.
Yeah.
That's his philosophy. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it just baffles me that we're sitting here talking about, and I'm not saying anything's wrong with Mel Tucker, but there are rumors around it. They're looking at his contract up there in Michigan State.
Can Michigan State afford to buy him out at?
They not
No.
buying him out. They can't afford that.
I
They're
don't,
still different than
even
A&M.
with all the money that Texas A&M has, they can't afford to buy Jimbo out.
I have a take on that, and I'll go last on this just because it's a little bit of a rant, and I want to make sure everybody.
Let me jump in on that one
Go
real
ahead,
quick.
Jay.
And so Joel Klatt tweeted this out December 12th of 2017. And he said this, I quote, Power 5 programs are paying a combined $69 million in buyouts this year alone. You could give every Power 5 football player around $10,000 with that money. Institutions of higher education are paying $69.010 million to 7 individuals. Absurd. And you're talking about these buyouts with A&M and Michigan State. It's going to do nothing but get worse. Jimmy Sexton knows what he's doing. That man is a legend. He's a legend at the bank. Yeah. They see him at the bank and they're like, oh, Jimmy's walking in, guys. Bring out the rose petals. And then you got somebody in there asking who going to clean up all these flowers. That's what he does, man. That man is a god. He walks on water in some miraculous way. But that's the crazy part, man, is that these teams get so excited for no reason, like just because you get a winning record, you're like, oh, we've got our guy, we're gonna go ahead and pay him all this. No, like just like you said, Nick, just like you said, Chris, give it a couple more seasons, because you're gonna be stuck in the whole pay. I mean, there's so many teams that are still paying coaches. They've been paying coaches for years, and they could even get a new coach. They were struggling to get a new coach because of how much money they were paying out to all of the other coaches that they had on payroll. You're paying guys not to work. Like,
exactly.
It's absurd. Now I get it's a negotiation tactic to get somebody to take the job, but do better. Stop resetting the market. Is which Ty is going to go into his rant on. Go ahead, Ty.
Well, hold on, Ty. Let me
Nick,
get a little.
go.
Let me get a little bit in.
Get in there.
This happens with teams that aren't
Low
used to winning.
self-esteem.
Yeah,
Low self-esteem.
Teams have low self-esteem, and teams that are not used to winning. All right, so you have a team like Michigan State who does really well with Mel Tucker in his first year, and he builds his team through the transfer portal, and he does all these great things, and they haven't had a high that high in a while. And so they're like, I got to bottle this up right now, and I got to keep it, and I got to preserve it, right? And with them doing that, they overspend. It's almost like a kid in a toy store, right? And then he goes in for Christmas, and they say, get whatever you want. And they're like, Mel Tucker got us 10 wins this year. Just get him and bottle them up. I don't want him to leave. And so they overreacted to the minimal success, which makes you wonder, who are the athletic directors of these schools that are blessing this? First off, who are the ADs of these schools that are looking at and saying that, look, yeah, he built his team through the transfer portal, so he's going to be able to do this every year. No, those are short-sighted opportunities to have winning seasons. You cannot have a continued successful team doing what Mel Tucker did his first year. The case of Jimbo, Jimbo had a great COVID year, right? The COVID year that Jimbo had was outstanding for A&M. It was an outstanding year. They went to the Orange Bowl. They win it. They do great things. And then they just went bananas after that, which was crazy because prior to that, he has been an average 7-win quarterback since Jameis Winston left. He's been a 7-win coach since Jameis Winston left. And that's who he is. Yeah. That's who Jimbo is, and they overpaid for a 7-win coach. Now, will things get better? Will Jimbo get his head out of his ass and let Bobby Petrino run the offense? That's going to be the clear decision of – I know, right? That's going to be the clear decision of whether or not that extension was worth it. If Jimbo is able to become a CEO of this team and not be a head coach who is too stuck in his ways to get out of his way to help his team win games. Ty, over to you, man.
Yeah, look, you've all said it beautifully, but there is something that has just plagued my mind. It is almost like Inception, where an idea was planted and it will not come out. And it takes me back to something I said 4 or 5 months ago with Texas A&M, where I asked the question to Texas A&M fans in a video, what is the standard of acceptability at Texas A&M? What's the standard? You fired Kevin Sumlin for giving you the exact same thing Jimbo Fisher gives you. And some A&M fan hit my comments and gave me a reason. He said, well, Jimbo's recruiting better. And I said, fair. But you don't realize that actually hurts your argument. You're telling me you're getting the same results with more talent. That's worse. Like, that's objectively worse. Plus, Kevin Sumlin didn't lose to a group of 5 team. Jimbo did. That's not really the point here. Here's the point, all right? It's stupid for multiple reasons, the contract they give Jimbo Fisher. It's stupid for the first reason of, look at the buyout they have to pay him. Jay, you alluded to it. Chris, you talked about it. Nick, you talked about it. It's an absurd buyout, right? You gave this man an extension off of beating Nick Saban. Cool. The reason why I think this is so dumb, what they did, is I always liken this to the NFL. Whenever Aaron Rodgers, whenever Patrick Mahomes signs a new contract, they set the market. Now A&M is in a position where if they pay Jimbo Fisher the buyout, no agent worth their salt is going to take a contract worth substantially less than what Jimbo had, and here's the reason. Because if they're firing Jimbo for 8-4, the other agent is coming in there, and their point of negotiations is, we're going to give you substantially better results than 8-4. And if you're paying Jimbo Fisher X amount of millions of dollars a year for 8-4, you have to pay me X plus 3 for 10-2. For 11-1. They've set the standard of acceptability at an absurd rate, and now no agent worth their salt is going to take a contract worth substantially less. Maybe it will be less because of how much they've paid him. It won't be substantially less because their pitch is going to be, you're bringing me in here to be better. Why would I take less than the guy you just fired if I'm getting you better results? And this gets me into a larger point, right? You pay a coach not off of what you think they can do. You pay a coach off of what they do. There's a reason why when Nick Saban gets a 10-year deal, I applaud. He's given you all the success you could hope for. If he goes 10-2 the rest of his days, I pray that that's not the case. But if that's the case, he is still objectively unbelievable, right? Like, that's still unbelievable. He's worth the contract because you've paid him for what he's given you. They paid Jimbo for ideas, and that's wild.
Dog.
Clip that.
We got to clip that. I'm still in that one.
I feel
the
the
sermon.
Well, I'm not done yet.
Oh, no, I know you're not. Real quick. But that is the thing that I've preached about this whole Jimbo Fisher piece is, man, A&M ain't got $200 million to be hiring a new coach. You can't buy out $86 million and then think the next dude's gonna be like, oh, I'll take less. It's 5 wins. I won't double what he made if I get you 10.
And it gets me to like the ACC, right, with their contract situation right now. I don't understand, and this is what I don't understand taking this long-term deal. I get it. You have long-term quote-unquote security. Guys, y'all all know that outside of college football, my second sport is MMA. So usually UFC, but any of that stuff, right? Kickboxing. Dana White said something incredibly stupid the other day, if you could believe it. He was talking about Power Slap. First off, he said they pull better numbers than every other sport combined, which is just mind-numbingly stupid. The second thing he said that just rustled my jimmies like no one would believe is he was like, oh, well, Slap is doing great. We just signed a media contract worth more than what we signed with Spike with in 2006 for the UFC. And in my mind, I was like, yeah, I hope that you, being a billion-dollar company, could prop up a subsidiary of your company and get a better TV media rights contract than you got in 2006. The landscape has changed, and that 2006 money is funny money now. Point being, I don't know why in the landscape right now you commit to something so long when things so frequently change.
You know what's crazy about this too, Ty? Let's say Jimbo struggles, which I think he is over the next couple years, and let's say A&M fires him after 2 or 3 years, and his buyout's only about, 40 mil, right? 40, 50 mil, right? And let's say they want to go after a coach, let's say Lane Kiffin, right? Lane's a good coach, right? Lane's a good coach. Lane's making $7.3 million this year, okay? At Ole Miss, right? At Ole Miss, with no expectations, with no real expectations, Lane Kiffin is making $7.3 million in 2023. If he goes to Texas Tech, what do you think he's going to want? What is any coach with any kind of worth going to want? Lane Kiffin, folks, is making $7.35 million this year at Ole Miss. And let's say he goes and says, I want to go to Texas A&M, I can turn that team around. You're going to have to pay me at least 9.5 to 10 every season. Fully guaranteed.
What did Jimbo Fisher make? 9.5 is what his average is? You got to pay me at least 9.6.
Yes. And now
period.
You have set your market. Ty, you said it just right, Ty. A&M has set their market so high now for a head coach that, look, you're going to have to just come out the pocket for him, man, and hope that the next coach that you get is worth it.
The only agents that's going to be willing and interested to negotiate with them will be Jimmy Sexton. And we all know that he walk in there, he's going to be like, hey, man, y'all know the last contract? Yesterday's prices ain't today's prices.
They're gonna lock him out the building. If he's representing a coach, they're gonna be like, next, we can't. We've went through this one time with Jimmy Sexton before. We will not be made a fool of twice.
Exactly.
You know what's gonna be funny? It's every time they talk to a coach and be like, okay, so yeah, I think this might be a good fit. So who's your agent? Oh, we got Jimmy Sexton. Well,
get out.
We won't talk.
Get out.
And they're literally going to have, it's going to be a conveyor belt of coaches walking in saying, oh, my agent's Jimmy Sexton. My agent's Jimmy Sexton. My agent's, there's no way they're going to avoid this man now after they did this to themselves.
Man. And look, Lane Kiffin's salary raises to $9 million if he's retained after the 2023 season. So what do you think a guy like that's going to command? A guy of his caliber, right? We're talking Lane Kiffin, a guy of his caliber. What is he going to command if the A&M job opens up?
And I actually think Lane Kiffin's silliness, backed by A&M's capabilities, might work, right?
Yes,
Like, his
that's-
silliness is just endearing enough to pique interest of people, and now you have that resources. It'd be fun.
That's why I
But-
pulled his name, because I think he'd be an awesome hire there. But what would
Please
he
don't get
command
the
on the?
Look, I think it's a great segue into what else I was gonna say. I just wanted to talk.
I knew
give a
it,
shout
I knew
out
it.
to the only school in the SEC with a
Here
bucket.
we go.
Okay. And I wanted to point out to Ty, this is the only school in the SEC. Let me repeat that for the people out there with the Buckies. Everybody loves Buckies. Everybody loves Buckies. If you don't,
Yeah, Bucky
look,
hard to pay.
if y'all in the chat ain't never had no
Buc-ee's is-
Beaver Nuggets,
Hey, Bucky's is
Bucky
on
go hard in
point.
the paint, dog.
Buc-ee's
Yeah, they
is on
typically
point.
put them in areas with high depression, so that would make sense. You have to do something to mitigate the sorrow of the people.
Oh man,
I'm just letting you know.
So you give them beaver nuggets so they focus on something other than their pain.
He said the Beaver. Wow.
oh man. All right, man. But look, folks, man. Look, it's been an hour and a half. We only got through one team.
Yeah, we had too much fun.
We had too
Yeah,
much
no,
fun with
this-
South
this-
Carolina.
This right here, what we arrived upon the other week when we started, this is so much fun. And I know
It
it's
is.
only one team, like we don't get through much, but it is so much fun to go through and talk about this.
Exactly. So, all right, folks, man. Let's go ahead and let's end this thing. Press that like button. Just get to the channel. Subscribe to the channel, man. I think we're almost at 200 subscribers here for the SC Connect. Far less than all of our channels, but look, we're just trying to start this up. This is going to be in great position once Texas and OU do go to the SEC, and also when the football season starts this year. We're going to have a lot of content to talk about. It's going to be awesome. So like, comment, subscribe, folks, and we're out, man. Deuces.
Boomer.
That
Peace.
damn Auburn sign.